Huh? What are you doing here? Happy birthday, Manager Yan! Hurry, hurry! You two know each other? Bian Liang was so shocked he could barely speak. Mr. Liao introduced Dong Xiao, who had come from headquarters to evaluate the company. In other words, everyone was about to be weighed and measured. Dong Xiao politely stood up and offered her hand. Bian Liang was clearly flustered. Seeing his old campus beauty already had him excited. And now she was here to evaluate him, which made him even more nervous. The sales team thought Bian Liang had been promoted to vice president and rushed to celebrate. Bian Liang quickly stopped them. Headquarters had announced nothing yet, so everyone needed to calm down. He had no idea whether this visit meant good or bad news, and Dong Xiao's arrival left him uneasy. Bian Liang had someone buy Dong Xiao's favorite Blue Mountain coffee and followed her around making small talk. He first said she'd lost her youthful look and become more elegant and mature. His own child was already in middle school, so he asked whether Dong Xiao had a son or daughter. To his shock, she was still single. Single? Is that strange? These days, marriage and kids aren't mandatory for career women, right? So career women deserve to be single? Bian Liang realized he'd gone too far and quickly said being single was fine too. Dong Xiao said she'd start the evaluation with Bian Liang, leaving him confused. Then she suddenly changed the subject.
咱们俩过去那些事儿，你都忘了吗？
Dong Xiao had always been Bian Liang's dream girl. 20 years ago, he went to great lengths to chase her, but proud and aloof, she barely noticed him. After graduation, she studied abroad, and Bian Liang feared she might come back for revenge. So he asked their old classmate Yu Guang to arrange a dinner and feel her out, then sent him Dong Xiao's business card. Yu Guang agreed at once and invited Dong Xiao to dinner that evening. Soon it was quitting time. Seeing Bian Liang still in the office, Dong Xiao sent him a voice message. Bian Liang, Yu Guang called and asked me to dinner tonight. Did you give him my number? Why didn't you call me yourself? Bian Liang was startled and stammered that Yu Guang had acted too fast and he knew nothing about dinner. He pretended to be innocent. He said he was going home to celebrate his birthday with his wife and child, but since Yu Guang had arranged dinner, Dong Xiao could come along. When she asked him to pick her up, he panicked. His car was blocked in the garage, so he made up an excuse. "Oh, I really can't. I'm already out. I'm not at the office. My girlfriend is calling me to dinner." Bian Liang insisted he wasn't there. Dong Xiao exposed the lie on the spot. Bian Liang was embarrassed, but she didn't seem angry. The three went to the barbecue stall they used to visit in college. Yu Guang tried to probe for Bian Liang, but Dong Xiao simply said she'd come back for him. "When we were together, didn't you say you'd marry me? I came back to see you keep that promise." Bian Liang and Yu Guang were stunned. They hurried to explain that Bian Liang was already married. Dong Xiao remained firm. She said she'd waited more than 20 years and flown halfway around the world just to make him marry her. On the way back to the hotel, Bian Liang covered her with his coat. Dong Xiao said she'd only been teasing earlier, then held his coat by the window so perfume wouldn't cling to it and cause trouble at home. At the hotel, she asked him to walk her upstairs. "I had a great time today." Seeing her lips come closer, Bian Liang controlled himself and promised to pick her up for work early the next morning. Only then did she let him go. After getting home, Bian Liang quickly stripped off his clothes and threw them in the laundry basket. His strange behavior immediately made his wife suspicious.
不要说你爱我。
If your heart doesn't mean it, and you're only humoring me, I'd rather know. It would hurt too much. The man thought being promoted to vice president would let him spend the rest of his life peacefully with his wife and child. He never expected his first love, gone for 20 years, to suddenly return. Afraid his wife would smell perfume on him, he hurried home and stripped naked. He even carried away the clothes he'd changed out of, but his wife still noticed. "What are you carrying?" "Just some dirty clothes. I'll take care of them." Afraid she'd discover the secret, Bian Liang claimed he was taking them to the cleaners. His wife had never seen him so diligent and found it odd. The next day he went to pick up Dong Xiao, only to be spotted by his son, who thought Dad must be rich. He joked that Dad was taking clothes to be cleaned at a 5-star hotel. His wife couldn't get a cab and asked Bian Liang for a ride. While they were talking, Dong Xiao came out. Running into each other made Bian Liang terribly awkward, so he quickly introduced his wife to Dong Xiao. For a moment, he didn't know whether to let his wife and child get in. Dong Xiao was easygoing. Since it was on the way, she invited them along. The car ride was awkward until Bian Xiaofeng broke the silence. He learned Dong Xiao had studied in Britain and was also his father's superior, so he complained that his father was bossy at home. He didn't want to study abroad, but Dad insisted. Then Fu Xintong asked a question. Dong Xiao, why did you decide to go abroad back then? Back then, Dong Xiao wanted to stay with Bian Liang, but her family disapproved and sent her overseas. After all these years, she still hadn't forgotten him, but only said she couldn't remember. Bian Liang wanted to avoid gossip and asked her to take the elevator first, but Dong Xiao insisted on waiting for him. It was rush hour, and the elevator filled instantly. Afraid Dong Xiao would get squeezed, Bian Liang pressed himself into a corner, but the farther he moved back, the closer Dong Xiao squeezed toward him. He tried not to take advantage, while she acted as if nothing was wrong. Dong Xiao used the evaluation as an excuse to visit Bian Liang's office. He worried the staff might see them. He quickly shut the blinds, then realized that looked even worse, and opened them again. Sure enough, someone was peeking in. Dong Xiao had just met his wife and son and seen how happy his family looked. She asked Bian Liang to guess how she felt. Isn't it just like this? Dong Xiao took out her phone and showed him a picture of her boyfriend. Hearing she had a boyfriend, Bian Liang was relieved and praised the young man for being handsome, even better looking than himself in his youth. Not disappointed at all? To make him prove his sincerity, Dong Xiao asked him to go shopping with her. They ate, drank, and enjoyed themselves. It felt like old times. Passing a bridal shop, Dong Xiao wanted to look at wedding dresses. Bian Liang assumed she was getting married and should pick one she liked. When she appeared in a gown, he stared in amazement. She looked like a fairy in the dress, with deep dimples when she smiled. The more Bian Liang looked, the prettier she seemed. He was so distracted he dropped his phone. Beautiful. Really beautiful. Wait, let me take a picture after the photos. Dong Xiao asked the clerk to bring out a men's suit and invited Bian Liang to stand in as the groom. They took a few sets of photos to see how the outfits matched. Wanting to help to the end, Bian Liang changed into a suit and posed with her. The shop wanted to display the photos, but Dong Xiao asked them to replace Bian Liang, explaining he wasn't her groom, just a stand-in. On the way back, she finally spoke from the heart. Back when they were together, Bian Liang had promised to personally choose her wedding dress. So today's whole purpose was to have him fulfill that promise. The next morning, when employees arrived at work, they suddenly saw a wedding portrait hanging outside the bridal shop. One man was so shocked he nearly hit the gas instead of the brake. He photographed it and took it back to the company. One person was his direct boss, the other a leader from headquarters. How had they suddenly gotten married? A woman forced her first love to pose for a wedding photo, and it spread through the company instantly. Mr. Liao asked Bian Liang to come to his office. I also wanted to ask about the evaluation. Come here and look. Seeing Mr. Liao's serious face, Bian Liang was confused, then froze when he saw the picture on the computer. How did this get here? No, this isn't me. Mr. Liao knew Bian Liang had a family. Something this strange had to have a reason. He joked they could Photoshop it and use it to advertise cars. Bian Liang explained Dong Xiao was here to evaluate them and was planning to marry her young boyfriend, so she had asked him to try on the groom's suit. Mr. Liao understood his problem, but warned that his wife would surely find out, because the wedding photo was already displayed in the bridal shop window. Right. It's practically become internet famous. The whole company wants to run over and pose with you two. Do something. Bian Liang was horrified. He hurried over to check and found Mr. Liao was right. His wedding photo with Dong Xiao was hanging on the wall. He demanded it be removed, but the clerk said Dong Xiao had authorized it. Only Dong Xiao could cancel the display, so Bian Liang had no choice but to find her. He begged her to remove the photo before things got out of hand. I gave them permission. That's my right. Besides, I told them to Photoshop you out. Dong Xiao had indeed asked the shop to remove Bian Liang, but had no idea what they actually did. When Bian Liang showed her the picture, she realized they'd only retouched his face. Seeing how ridiculously handsome they'd made him, she burst out laughing. Bian Liang couldn't understand why he was being pranked. Dong Xiao admitted she was angry. Back then, they were happy together, until her mother suddenly forced them apart. Bian Liang had gone to her house, but Dong Xiao's mother kept him outside. I kept wondering, weren't you worried about me? What if something happened? Couldn't you have come a few more times? What if I died? Bian Liang sincerely apologized. 20 years, grudges should be put down. If the photo stayed up, it could destroy his family. Dong Xiao agreed to remove it on one condition. Bian Liang must leave the company. He knew leaving meant losing his income, while his unemployed wife, mortgage, child, and elderly parents all depended on him. He couldn't understand why Dong Xiao was being so cruel. When he got home and saw his wife sitting sadly on the sofa, his heart sank. He thought she had already learned about the wedding photo. Instead, the study abroad agency they'd hired for their child had turned out to be a scam, and the money they'd paid was probably gone. To cut expenses, Mrs. Bian decided to move her mother in the nursing home from a private room to a shared one. Her parents saw how pale she looked and knew something was wrong. After repeated questioning, Fu Jintong finally admitted they'd been cheated over Xiaofang's study abroad plans. How much? Almost $1 million. Her parents were heartbroken, thinking even shrewd Bian Liang had been fooled. Fu Jintong told them not to blame him because she'd handled it. Bian Liang and Bian Xiaofang came to pick her up. But she didn't go upstairs, afraid her parents would see how upset she was. Xiaofang wanted beef hot pot. Unfortunately, the restaurant required them to pass the bridal shop, and Bian Liang had a guilty conscience. He knew that if his wife and child saw the photo, a storm was coming. Bian Liang was tense the whole way, constantly honking and suggesting a detour. His wife refused. Traffic wasn't bad, and detouring would only waste time. Then their son spotted the wedding portrait. Look over there. Isn't that Aunt Dong? Is she marrying Uncle Du? Bian Liang braced himself. He was ready to take a slap from his wife and let her vent. She took wedding photos. She's getting married. Right. Of course she is. His wife didn't hit him. Instead, she wondered why the wedding photo showed only one person. Only then did Bian Liang dare look. He discovered the photo had already been replaced with one of Dong Xiao alone. He was as happy as if he'd won $5 million. Ha, that's great. Then Dong Xiao told him, I had a miscarriage. 20 years earlier, the young woman had miscarried and become permanently infertile. Now, 20 years later, she had returned to confront the child's father. Some things are over, but some things never really pass. Back then, Bian Liang and Dong Xiao slept together. After Dong Xiao fell and bled badly, the hospital told her she had been pregnant. She was helpless and asked someone to tell Bian Liang to come see her. But from then on, Bian Liang disappeared completely. Dong Xiao tried to forget him and marry her boyfriend, only to be told by doctors that she could no longer have children. Bian Liang never knew one reckless act had hurt her so deeply. At home, he asked his wife how important having children was to a woman. In some ways, more important than life itself. Hearing that, Bian Liang felt torn. He had never imagined how much damage he'd caused Dong Xiao. Worried and guilty, Bian Liang invited Dong Xiao to an amusement park. From the Ferris wheel, they looked down over the city. The higher you stand, the farther you see. My life. Bian Liang knew Dong Xiao still hadn't forgiven him, but he couldn't jump off the Ferris wheel either. That wouldn't solve anything. It would only bring endless trouble to both of them. Bian Liang took out a check and handed it to her. Let's see what our child is worth to you. Watch your mouth. Is this about money? The check was for 300,000. Bian Liang said he only wanted to compensate her for what he owed after all these years. Dong Xiao wanted none of it. She tore the check to pieces in front of him. Realizing she still wouldn't forgive him, Bian Liang met an old classmate, Niu Li, and considered taking a job in Hainan. Niu Li's company needed a vice president, and Bian Liang had the contacts and resources. He was more than qualified, but didn't agree immediately. He wanted to discuss it with his family. His wife immediately sensed something was wrong. Bian Liang, did Mr. Liao fire you? No. Come on, why would you think that? That night, Bian Liang kept trying to persuade his wife. She didn't know what had gone wrong, but she'd always followed her husband's arrangements, so she reluctantly agreed. Yu Guang and Bian Liang went to Brother Hua's barbecue stall. Bian Liang told him he planned to go to Hainan and work with their old classmate Niu. His company needed a vice president, and the package was good. Yu Guang thought he was crazy. Bian Liang had worked too hard to get where he was. How can you throw away half your life so easily? Fueled by alcohol, Bian Liang finally told him everything about Dong Xiao. He felt that if he didn't disappear, he'd only hurt Dong Xiao more. Drunk Yu Guang called her. Dong Xiao, what's going on? Why is he telling me he's leaving home? Hainan? Dong Xiao had no idea Bian Liang planned to leave. The next day, she asked Mr. Liao what was happening. Mr. Liao said Bian Liang wasn't really quitting, only taking a long leave. Ever since Dong Xiao arrived, Bian Liang had been distracted. Mr. Liao wasn't interested in their past, but he didn't want personal grudges mixed with business. Dong Xiao insisted she would keep work and feelings separate. She was only there to evaluate. Bian Liang said goodbye and prepared to move his whole family to Hainan as compensation to her. Dong Xiao didn't want things to go that far. She had only wanted Bian Liang to understand how she felt back then. She never expected him to take his wife and child and leave. Back then you knew nothing, so in a way you were innocent too. Dong Xiao admitted they were both very young. Even without the miscarriage, she probably wouldn't have kept the baby. What hurt was that Bian Liang never came to see her at the hospital. He apologized sincerely, and Dong Xiao finally stopped blaming him and told him to keep his job. His wife was already planning the move to Hainan, and Bian Liang struggled with how to tell her he'd changed his mind again. She nearly broke down. The whole family had been turned upside down. Bian Liang could only keep apologizing. To hide the truth, he said Dong Xiao had helped settle the work situation. His wife thought Dong Xiao had done them a big favor and wanted to thank her over dinner. Bian Liang assumed Dong Xiao wouldn't come, so he called her for show. "Hello, Dong Xiao." If you're busy or it's inconvenient, forget it. Sure, Dong Xiao had long wanted to meet Bian Liang's wife, so she readily agreed to dinner the next day, reminding him to keep their school romance secret. To meet her rival, she even asked a friend to help buy a new outfit. Her mother noticed how dressed up she was. "It's just dinner. Why make such a big deal and wear a whole new outfit?" Her mother knew she was usually frugal. Such a formal dinner had to mean something, so her mother followed. Mrs. Bian thanked Dong Xiao. Without her help, Bian Liang might have lost his job. Bian Liang said Dong Xiao always separated business from personal ties and showed no favoritism at work. Mrs. Bian became curious. "How are you two classmates? You really don't look like the same age." He already looked like this in high school. Mrs. Bian knew Bian Liang wasn't exactly handsome. She never imagined he could have had any connection with Dong Xiao. "You must have been the campus beauty." "Beauty? Beauty? Yes, a big beauty." Bian Liang hurried to distance himself. He claimed Dong Xiao was Yu Guang's goddess. Dong Xiao was startled. She hadn't known Yu Guang liked her. "Bian Liang, who did you like in school?" "Fei Cheng." His wife's question caught him off guard, but he quickly named the famous TV character from The Bund, turning it into a joke and escaping danger. Meanwhile, several pairs of eyes watched from outside the window. Bian Xiaofang was delighted. He ran in to tell Bian Liang and Fu Shintong, and the grandparents followed. Dong Xiao quickly greeted Bian Liang's father. "Uncle Bian, long time no see. You know me." Hearing that Dong Xiao knew his father made Fu Shintong alert. They all sat down for dinner. Dong Xiao's parents noticed the tag still hanging from her new clothes and realized how awkward the meal was. Back home, Fu Shintong complained her mother had made trouble, but her mother disagreed. She could tell Dong Xiao was no ordinary old classmate. She asked the old man to explain Dong Xiao's relationship with Bian Liang. Seeing his father struggle, Bian Liang admitted Dong Xiao was his ex-girlfriend. "She was my girlfriend when we were young, back in school." But the parents still weren't satisfied. After marriage, Fu Shintong quit her job to care for the family. It wasn't that Bian Liang had no time. He simply hadn't put enough heart into the home. Still, Fu Shintong chose to trust him and told her mother to stay out of it. Bian Liang's father also warned him to know his limits. "Before you do anything, think about your wife and child." Bian Liang apologized to his wife over the Dong Xiao situation, and Fu Shintong still chose to trust him. She also planned to send her mother back to the nursing home soon. Not only for them, but because Bian Xiaofang had important exams coming. The house couldn't stay noisy forever. Bian Liang noticed the tag still on Fu Shintong's clothes and told her to buy herself more new things. Then Dong Xiao announced good news. She said she was getting married soon. Bian Liang let out a huge sigh of relief. He even broke into song. "Beautiful girl, you ask where I'm going. I point toward the sea. I'd pour all my longing into you." The next morning, a group of employees congratulated Bian Liang on becoming vice president. He told everyone to stay calm. It only counted once it was announced at the meeting. Before the meeting, manager Huang came over to flatter him, saying Bian Liang should have been promoted long ago. Headquarters had been blind and delayed his career. As they talked, a young man approached. "Excuse me, are you manager Bian?" "Yes. And you are?" "Let me introduce myself. My name is Zhao Xian. I graduated in business administration from the University of St. Andrews in the UK. Zhao Xian had been transferred from headquarters and wanted to ask Bian Liang a few questions, but Bian Liang and old Huang dismissed his ideas about online sales. When Mr. Liao announced the new vice president, Bian Liang naturally started to stand. Mr. Zhao Xian, sent by the group. When Mr. Liao named Zhao Xian instead, Bian Liang froze in embarrassment and everyone else was shocked. Zhao Xian had parachuted in as vice president. Frustrated, Bian Liang went to Mr. Liao's office to complain. Then he learned Zhao Xian was the son of the new chairman. Bian Liang felt bitter, and Mr. Liao wasn't happy either. Later in the restroom, Bian Liang grumbled that he simply hadn't been born into the right family, and Zhao Xian was still just a kid. Only after hearing a toilet flush did he realize someone else was there. Zhao Xian stepped out, leaving Bian Liang mortified. After work, Bian Liang saw Zhao Xian together with Dong Xiao. He suddenly remembered the boyfriend photo Dong Xiao had shown him. Zhao Xian was her boyfriend. Meanwhile, a female salesperson came to the company because she'd never received her commission.
来公司找领导讨个说法。
您这也太不负责任了！您给我留的电话，我打给您的。
Bian Liang was so busy he'd forgotten the whole thing. Once reminded, he remembered. He told his assistant to retrieve Wen Kakao's sales records and promised not to short her a cent. Impressed by Bian Liang, When Kakao returned after receiving her commission. I'd like to apply for a job in marketing, I know. I don't have much work experience, but I still want to try. When Kakao had studied acting. After college, she'd gone from crew to crew without steady income, then tried sales. Sales turned out unstable too, so now she wanted to join marketing. Bian Liang thought she was sharp and decided to give her a chance. But when she came to report for duty, he hesitated. A new vice president had arrived and departments were being reorganized. If Wen joined now, her position might change. So it might change or it might not. Is that what you mean? When Kakao said people should look on the bright side. Even if she got fired, the worst outcome was going back to sales, so she had little to lose. Seeing her determination, Bian Liang let her stay on trial. Later, Fu Jintong visited the old man and brought shrimp dumplings. While tidying his room, she suddenly asked about Bian Liang and Dong Xiao. Dad, that Dong Xiao. How did she and Bian Liang break up? The old man realized Fu Xintong was still bothered by it and quickly explained that they had been young and immature. When he noticed things going too far, he stopped them in time. After Fu Xintong left, the old man immediately called Bian Liang. He told him to clear up his wife's doubts no matter what. That night, Bian Liang took out a box filled with old keepsakes, including their graduation photo. He downplayed everything, claiming Yu Guang had chased Dong Xiao while he was only the third wheel. Now their own child was grown, so everyone should move on. He also mentioned his superior, Zhao Xian. Zhao Xian was Dong Xiao's boyfriend, and they might marry any day, so everyone could attend the wedding. Fu Xintong believed him and promised to stop dwelling on it. Zhao Xian invited Bian Liang to lunch. Leaders of most key departments had already been dismissed, leaving only Bian Liang in marketing. Zhao Xian had a bigger plan. I value your ability. I want us to work together and turn the South China Marketing Company into an Asia-Pacific marketing company. Once we succeed, the company can be left to you. Bian Liang couldn't figure out Zhao Xian's intentions, so he asked Mr. Liao for advice. Mr. Liao suggested to the board that Bian Liang also serve as assistant to the general manager. It sounded less prestigious than vice president, but it was important because he would remain Mr. Liao's man, and Zhao Xian couldn't easily remove him. Then the very thing Bian Liang feared happened. Right after work, he got another call from Zhao Xian. I'm already eating. What is it? Mr. Bian, I'm Mr. Zhao's secretary. Mr. Zhao invites you to dinner. Zhao Xian's secretary blocked his escape, so he had no choice. Zhao Xian then shared good news. The board had accepted Mr. Liao's proposal and promoted Bian Liang to assistant general manager. His first task was to reorganize the company. Seeing Bian Liang working late, Wen Kakao brought him dinner. Hearing he was handling internal restructuring, she volunteered to help. How about I help? I'm new and still inexperienced. Please teach me more. I'll learn faster that way. The next morning, Bian Liang was surrounded at the office door. The restructuring plan had leaked, and department heads facing layoffs came to demand answers. Bian Liang had no choice but to deal with them. Everyone suspected Wen Kaosao had leaked the file. Zhao Xian, away on vacation, also heard about it but chose not to interfere. He wanted to see how Bian Liang handled a crisis. After Bian Liang talked with everyone, their attitude completely changed. Only then did Wen Kaokao realize Bian Liang had prepared a backup plan. The leaked document was fake, planted in case someone tried to steal the layoff plan. Bian Liang had placed a fake version on his computer. He also hid a camera in a flower pot. Sure enough, someone entered the office and opened his computer. It was his former subordinate Zhu Shenghao. Later, in an overcrowded elevator, Wen Kakao was squeezed painfully and accidentally kissed her boss. Bian Liang stood frozen, holding his coffee. When they finally separated, Wen Kaokao suddenly noticed her lipstick mark on his shirt collar. Seeing him looking upward and unaware, she was too embarrassed to tell him. The elevator stopped at the 20th floor, and everyone got out. Only Wen Kakao and Bian Liang were left inside. She finally gathered the courage to say what she'd been holding in. Mr. Bian, I like you. Seeing his panicked reaction, she asked if it was the first time someone had confessed to him. Bian Liang said he was already married, but Wen Kakao didn't care. She simply liked him from the bottom of her heart. Then the elevator stopped. Even though it wasn't his floor, Bian Liang couldn't wait to get out. Hey, there are 3 floors left. I know. I'll get off here. His assistant wondered what was wrong. Wen Kaokao lied that he'd seen a cockroach, making the assistant nervously look around. Bian Liang went to the restroom. Only then did he see the lipstick on his collar. He hurriedly tried to wipe it off with tissue, but the stain wouldn't come out. Back in the office, he used alcohol wipes while looking in the mirror. Then his assistant came in to report that a bed had opened up in the staff dormitory. She planned to give it to Wen Kakao. Wen Kakao? If you think it's inappropriate, I'll ask someone else. No, I have no objection. You can give it to her or not. Either is fine. Bian Liang was terrified of being linked romantically to Wen Cao Cao. His vague answer confused the assistant. She also told him the elevator had been disinfected and there would be no more cockroaches. Bian Liang had no idea Wen Cao Cao had made that up. He stammered so much no one knew what he meant. Later, Bian Liang celebrated his wife's birthday. After eating longevity noodles, they went to a movie. With their child away, he hoped for some private time with his wife. While she showered, Bian Liang prepared the room. Curtains closed, beds, lamp on, pants off. Everything was ready. But by the time Fu Xintong came back, he had fallen asleep. Wen Cao Cao brought documents to Mr. Bian and tried to close the office door. Bian Liang panicked. No, leave the door open. We need some air. Wen then reported on the Smart Store project. Seeing that he wouldn't even turn around, she left the files on the desk. She wondered why he wasn't pushing the project harder. Bian Liang told her not to blindly obey others and to develop her own judgment. Following you isn't blind obedience. I have my own judgment. In my eyes, there's nothing you can't do well. No matter how hard things get, you'll overcome them. Her admiration made Bian Liang feel secretly flattered. But lately, he had been anxious and having trouble in bed, so he'd bought some medicine to boost his stamina. Just as he was about to take it, Wen Cao Cao suddenly came in. When she went to get a broom, he quickly hid the medicine in his clothes. After cleaning, Wen Cao Cao went shopping for a cup. She found a design she loved and bought 2 identical ones. That afternoon, Bian Liang found a new cup on his desk with a note. Boss, you've worked hard. He looked toward Wen Cao Cao and knew it was from her. She watched him and was delighted when he drank from the cup she'd bought. That evening, Bian Liang came home drunk. Fu Xintong quickly helped him lie down. Then he started mumbling. She couldn't tell whether Cao was a person or a thing, so the name puzzled her. Later, they invited the female subordinate over for dinner. The hostess immediately sensed something was off. This is my wife. Hello, ma'am. Remember Wen Cao Cao? Hello, just call me Cao Cao. Fu Xintong suddenly felt she'd heard that name before. A few days earlier, Bian Liang had come home drunk and muttered Cao Cao on the sofa. So Cao Cao turned out to be a beautiful young woman. Bian Liang had been exhausted lately and once fell asleep over coffee. Seeing him in poor condition, Wen Cao Cao bought him some health supplements. A coworker outside the window happened to see the whole thing. Everyone started thinking this young woman was anything but simple. The next day, an angry HR employee came looking for her. Who's Wen Cao Cao? HR had received a complaint and wanted her to come in. No reason was given. Bian Liang found it strange and called HR. Only then did he learn he'd been reported to and was also summoned. He knew it had to do with Wen Cao Cao. So he brought the cup she had given him to HR. The HR director knew Bian Liang's character, but a complaint had been filed and procedure had to be followed. Bian Liang knew someone was trying to pressure him, but he had nothing to hide. Wen Cao Cao had joined the company properly and had excellent sales results. Bian Liang simply appreciated her ability. At most, theirs was a boss-subordinate relationship. Meanwhile, HR was questioning Wen Cao Cao too, trying to uncover anything romantic between her and Bian Liang. They indirectly asked her what she thought of him.
您是不是想问我是不是喜欢边走？我喜欢啊。
Wen Cao Cao openly admitted she liked Bian Liang. As for any deal behind her hiring, she'd only bought him a cup and some medicine. Zhao Xian became worried and wanted Mr. Liao to intervene. Mr. Liao seemed calm. He trusted Bian Liang's integrity. When Wen returned to the office, everyone crowded around to ask what HR had said. Bian Liang immediately shut all the blinds. Seeing that, everyone quickly returned to their desks. Wen Cao Cao noticed something strange. A store manager who'd been laid off had suddenly been rehired. She hurried to report it. Bian Liang told her they should avoid suspicion. Wen said the rumors were already everywhere, so there was no point worrying about appearances. As she turned to leave, Bian Liang suddenly called her back. After work, let's have dinner. At your place? To visit her boss's home, Wen Cao Cao got her hair done and bought freshly baked cakes. Fu Xintong was surprised that Wen came alone, especially since Bian Liang had once called her name while drunk. During dinner, Bian Liang kept showing affection and concern for Fu Xintong, which even surprised his wife. She asked Wen if she had a boyfriend. No, I'm single. So you live alone? I live in the staff dorm. Facing such a young, beautiful woman, Fu Xintong suddenly felt old. Seeing how Bian Liang cared about Cao Cao triggered a middle-aged woman's sense of crisis. During dessert, Bian Liang handed his wife mango cake. Here, this one's mango. Fu Jintong was stunned. She was allergic to mango, and he'd always known that. Had he gone stupid in front of a pretty girl? When Bianjiang saw Wen out, she thanked him for dinner. Despite their age gap, she said loving someone needed no reason. Bianjiang said he was middle-aged and didn't want to create trouble, but Wen wanted nothing in return. So my loving you has nothing to do with you. But don't worry. At work, I'll behave properly. Meanwhile, Fu Jintong's best friend accompanied her to the police station over another matter. And the moment they met Wen Kakao, the two women nearly came to blows. Her friend had heard Bian Liang brought a young woman home for dinner and called Fu Xintong too soft. She's already come into your home and you're still calm? To learn the truth about Bian Liang and Wen Kakao, the friend invited one of his coworkers to dinner. I just heard something recently. You heard too? The coworker lost composure, then quickly claimed it was nothing serious. But his shocked expression made the situation look suspicious. The friend warned Fu Xintong that Wen Kakao was not simple and needed watching. Later, she confronted Wen directly. Wen fought back. You say you're their friend? Do you think this is what a friend should do? The friend warned Wen to stay away from Bian Liang or get lost. Wen wasn't easily intimidated and said she had plenty of time to fight it out, leaving the friend speechless. A 4S dealership in Huizhou had employees collecting salaries without working, and rumors said one was a leader's relative. Bian Liang sent Wen Kaokao to Huizhou to investigate a man named Wang Genlin. She soon arrived and met store manager Wang Xiaoyang at a roadside restaurant. Mr. Wang, manager of the Huizhou Smart 4S flagship store? I'm Wen Kaokao from sales headquarters. Wang Xiaoyang treated her coldly. He claimed he didn't know why Wang Genlin had suddenly been rehired and advised her not to meddle. The dealership should care about revenue, not obsess over one employee. Wen knew something was wrong. The next day, she went directly to the Nanshan store, which was under renovation. When a worker refused to reveal the manager's identity, she offered him a pack of cigarettes. The foreman was about to talk when Wang Xiaoyang appeared.
刚才是不是问你我跟王根林什么关系了？啊，你记住了啊，我跟王根林
Have absolutely no relationship. And you don't know him either. Wang Xiaoyang warned the worker not to talk, or there would be consequences. To force Wen Kaokao out of town, Wang Xiaoyang hired several thugs. She must leave tonight, and she'd better never come back to Huizhou. Once she's gone, come collect your money. Understood. The thugs cornered Wen in an alley. She had studied some taekwondo, knocked two of them down with sweeping kicks, then ran. They chased her until she managed to hide. Only then did she escape them and report what she'd learned to Bian Liang. Why are you staying in a seaside guest house? I mean a little house by the sea in the suburbs, not some luxury place. Wen planned to stay there and continue investigating the next day. Then the two thugs found her again. Hearing screams over the phone, Bian Liang was terrified. He immediately messaged his wife that he had to go to Huizhou for work. On the way, he called the police. Meanwhile, Wen Kakao was chased to the edge of the sea. With nowhere left to go, she threatened to jump. Afraid someone might die, the thugs backed off. As they tried to escape, police arrested them. Bian Liang rushed to Wen's guest house just as she'd finished showering. Are you okay? Hurt? No. Good thing you called the police in time, or I really would have jumped. Bian Liang stayed there that night too. Wen was thrilled he wasn't leaving. Bian Liang told his wife the work wasn't finished and he'd stay one night. The next day, Fu Jintong's best friend called and immediately became suspicious when she heard he'd stayed at a guest house. Yu Guang overheard his wife on the phone and panicked. He hid to warn Bian Liang, but his wife caught him after only a few words and confiscated his phone. Early the next morning, Bian Liang and Wen Kaokao were taken to the police station. Fu Xintong and her friend also rushed to the guest house. The owner said the people they were looking for had been taken to the station, so they hurried there without knowing what had happened. Seeing several men arrested for soliciting prostitutes, both women panicked. Then Wen Kaokao and Bian Liang came out together. The friend immediately misunderstood and slapped Bian Liang. A police officer rushed over to explain. Fu Xintong couldn't take it and walked away. Bian Liang chased after her to explain. Wen, furious about being hit, followed and slapped the friend back. At work, Zhu Shenghao made sarcastic comments, pretending to criticize a subordinate while really attacking Wen. How did she get where she is today? By taking risks. By flattering people and selling her looks. After the exhausting business trip, when Kakao returned to the office and fell asleep at her desk, Zhu Shenghao peeked into Bian Liang's office, saw him asleep too, and started gossiping with coworkers. Luolin heard Wen had been in danger. Mr. Bian drove 100 kilometers to rescue her. That's not an ordinary relationship. Wen told them not to overthink it. She and Bian Liang were innocent, but last night was one of the most unforgettable nights of my life. I was kept up half the night. Hearing that, Luolin understood why Fu Shintong was angry. Anyone would be uncomfortable. She reminded Wen that Bian Liang had a family and warned her not to cross the line. Meanwhile, the Huizhou's investigation confirmed that nepotism was being used for personal gain. Bian Liang decided to report it to the disciplinary committee and investigate Wang Xiaoyang's connection with Wang Zhenlin. He specifically asked Zhu Shenghao to report the matter to Mr. Liao. Zhu instead went to complain about Bian Liang, but Mr. Liao had little leverage over him. After all, Bian Liang was always cautious and left no obvious weakness. Zhu Shenghao immediately started gossiping that Bian Liang and Wen Kaosao had an improper relationship. But I honestly don't know the truth. Pictures aren't necessarily the truth either. Mr. Liao told Zhu to stop gossiping, but also encouraged him, saying he'd be promoted someday. Meanwhile, Bian Liang's father hurried to see Fu Shintong while Li Man was there. He'd heard Bian Liang had gone to the police station and was very worried, so he demanded to know what happened in Huizhou. Li Man exaggerated the story, and Fu Shintong hurried to explain. Regardless of whether Bian Liang had done anything wrong, his father decided to teach him a lesson. When Bian Liang came home, he found his father sitting in a wheelchair. The old man claimed he'd been injured playing ball and made Bian Liang push him around the neighborhood while scolding him. Starting tomorrow, you come home on time. Any overtime must be reported. My company is insanely busy. Stop making trouble. You won't agree? Fine, then I'll stay here. The old man planned to move into his son's home. After monitoring him all night, Bian's father calculated the family's high monthly expenses and told Bian Liang to sell his car. Fu Shintong could drive him when needed. As soon as the couple left, the old man stood up from the wheelchair to stretch. Unfortunately, Bian Liang and Fu Shintong suddenly returned. Though the old man quickly acted injured again, Bian Liang realized he was faking. The next morning, Fu Shintong drove Bian Liang to work. She said she wouldn't obsessively watch him, but she also wouldn't close her eyes and act like a fool. Seeing Fu Shintong drop him off made Wen Kaokao uncomfortable. Later, Bian Liang chaired a sales meeting, and Zhu Shenghao proposed a new plan. He had even bypassed Bian Liang and reported it directly to Mr. Liao. It looked like Zhu wanted to sideline Bian Liang. Back in his office, Bian found a note from Kaokao. Stay in a good mood every day. It warmed his heart. He texted her to thank her for the fruit and yogurt. Wanting to train her, Bian planned to take Wen to meet an important client. Zhu Shenghao was jealous. Soon Mr. Liao stepped in and took the project away. It's nothing serious. This afternoon, Yang Xiaoyu will come with me to meet Chairman Hong Yuan. This afternoon? Bian Liang had clearly made the client appointment. But Mr. Liao specifically ordered Zhu Shenghao to go instead. Wen Kaokao was furious and wanted to confront Mr. Liao, but Luolin stopped her. Zhu Shenghao became even more arrogant. He ordered Luolin to copy the client materials. She was angry but silent, sensing the political winds had shifted. Later, Bian Liang prepared to take a female employee out to relax, but when the elevator opened, his wife was standing inside. Why are you here? Meeting a client. Fu Shintong could tell he was hiding something, but said nothing. Earlier, Bian Liang had driven Kaokao home. Kaokao suddenly asked if he was tired and whether his wife understood him. Bian Liang said both of them were busy and communicated less and less. He'd also noticed gray hairs on his wife's head. Time was catching up with them. Kaokao wanted to share his burden, but Bian told her to stop overthinking and focus on work. At home, Fu Shintong had fallen asleep at the computer. Bian Liang gently covered her with a sweater. When she woke, she said their son was at boarding school and her mother was safe in the nursing home, leaving her with nothing to do. So she decided to sell insurance. I may not make much, but I don't need to clock in, and I can still take care of the family. Fu Shintong had been an excellent student, but gave up her career to become a housewife. Otherwise, she might now be a senior executive too. Hearing her plan made Bian Liang feel guilty. Then the company held an emergency meeting where Mr. Liao suddenly announced a restructuring. Bian Liang would now serve only as his assistant. Zhu Shenghao would take over as marketing director. Zhao Xian objected, saying Bian Liang was a top sales expert. Taking him out of marketing made little sense, but Mr. Liao insisted and even told Bian Liang to assist Zhao Xian. I built my career in frontline sales. As for online sales, can't we find someone more specialized? Bian Liang was unhappy, but Mr. Liao insisted he leave marketing. Wen Kaokao panicked. If she was the reason, she offered to resign rather than ruin his future. Bian told her not to do that. The priority is to do your own job well. After taking over, Zhu Shenghao came to brag. He joked spring had arrived so suddenly, he hadn't even taken off his long underwear. Bian Liang ignored the provocation and watched him make a fool of himself. Then Zhu pointed at the office feng shui. This points straight at our office. Know what that means?
这个案件上哦，什么意思？ 小人为绕啊。
No matter how hard you work or how much you achieve, your boss won't appreciate you. Zhu claimed the office had bad feng shui and that villains were undermining Bian Liang. He planned to renovate, add plants, improve the air, and buy charms. Bian Liang found it absurd. The villain Zhu described was Zhu himself. Meanwhile, Fu Xintong's best friend heard she was selling insurance and gave her a designer handbag. She said it would make sales easier, and even called Dong Xiao to become Fu Xintong's first client. Xiao Xian had been away for days, leaving Bian Liang with little to do after his reassignment. Xiao's assistant invited him to a meeting. They wanted him to review a product, but Bian Liang was an outsider and could only listen to technical talk. At another meeting, Zhu Shenghao deliberately made things hard for Wen Kaokao, ordering her to handle every store by herself. Wen protested, but Zhu mocked her. No ambition in your current state? You complain about every task. How am I supposed to train you? Wen asked to join Luolin's team. Luolin nervously glanced at Zhu, but still followed the boss's order. Wen continued bringing coffee to Bian Liang and complained that Zhu Shenghao was targeting her. There was no way she could meet the month's performance target. Bian felt responsible, so he took leave from Mr. Liao and went out with her to visit clients. But the client was extremely difficult. They failed to close the deal and then ran into Fu Xintong in the elevator. Fu Xintong gave Wen Kaokao a cold, polite smile. Feeling guilty, Bian told Wen to take a taxi back while he drove his wife home. Wen was reluctant but had no choice. Meanwhile, Dong Xiao was video calling her fiancé. She accidentally noticed a shadow in his bedroom. Do you have a guest? No. The light is voice activated. Maybe someone's outside. Dong Xiao stayed calm and quickly took a screenshot. After the call, she enlarged the image. There was a pair of women's high heels beside her fiancé's bed. Remembering a previous gift Zhao Xian had sent, Dong Xiao compared the shoes. They were identical. She knew he was cheating. The next day, Zhao returned home, and Dong Xiao cooked a full meal. He mentioned custom roses arriving soon, but she deliberately started a confrontation. Can we delete the clause in the prenuptial agreement about children's inheritance? Why? If I definitely can't have children, that clause is useless. Zhao Xian knew Dong Xiao was infertile, yet the agreement still discussed children's inheritance. Combined with the high heels, she knew he had another plan. She told him to stop pretending. Zhao blamed his parents, claiming the clause only gave them hope. He also noticed Dong Xiao was acting strangely, so Dong Xiao simply brought up the high heels from the video. What I want is a simple marriage. Warm, understanding, faithful, with both people giving to each other. Zhao Xian didn't understand her. He'd always thought they shared the same values. He said she was being stubborn, and that ideals were different from reality. Dong Xiao disagreed. A marriage like Bian Liang and Fu Xintong's was what she wanted. She went into the bedroom and soon came out with a suitcase. Realizing she was serious, Zhao tried to stop her. Can we stop this? He promised to change, but Dong Xiao had made up her mind and gave him no more chances. She called Bian Liang and met him at a bar. Hearing she'd moved out of her fiancé's place, Bian Liang didn't try to persuade her because he knew how stubborn she was. Once Dong Xiao made a decision, nothing could stop her. Sometimes she envied Fu Xintong. A simple woman like her seemed the happiest. Bian Liang disagreed. Only the wearer knows whether a shoe fits. Then he became cautious and warned Dong Xiao not to drag him into trouble again. Around the same time, Fu Xintong tried to sell Dong Xiao insurance. She even prepared a critical illness policy for her. Dong Xiao thought that policy required a medical exam, so she bought an investment product instead. Dong Xiao felt Fu Xintong had changed a lot. She must have worked very hard at it. She was thoughtful, serious, and good at analyzing things. Dong Xiao believed Fu Xintong could do very well in the future. Fu thanked her, but felt she'd started too late. Have confidence. Better late than never. And your ability is no worse than Bian Liang's. Dong Xiao encouraged Fu Xintong to stop feeling inferior. As Fu's first client, Dong Xiao was happy to support her and promised to keep it secret from Bian Liang. Fu closed her first deal and came home excited, ready to celebrate. But before she could say it, Bian Liang guessed. I'll cook, we'll celebrate later, right? Bian Liang had accidentally seen Dong Xiao's policy while sorting receipts. He thought his wife should spend more time with her mother rather than use his social circle to sell insurance. In other people's eyes, how much of a failure would that make him look? Over 40, and his wife had to sell insurance to support the family. Fu Xintong was deeply disappointed. After years as a housewife, she'd long been disconnected from society. Apart from a few of Bian Liang's friends, she barely knew anyone. What hurt more was that Bian Liang's friends all supported her. Yet her own husband thought she was embarrassing him. A young woman falls for a 40-year-old man. Even after being rejected, she refuses to give up and starts lecturing him. A great man once said, "Victory often belongs to those who keep trying just a little longer." Bian Liang laughed and explained the age gap was practically a generation. He liked Kakao's honesty and enthusiasm and was naturally drawn to her youthful charm, but he had a wife and child. She should focus on improving her performance instead. An order Wen Cao had worked hard to win suddenly became Zhu Shenghao's achievement. She confronted him. I negotiated this deal. How did it become yours? What do you mean became mine? Zhu asked shamelessly. He claimed Cao couldn't possibly close such a large order alone, and implied Bian Liang had helped her behind the scenes. Wen argued she had all the evidence showing she'd negotiated it herself. If Zhu took credit, she'd report him. Zhu told her to go ahead, preferably to Bian Liang. Just then, Bian Liang arrived. I heard someone mention my name. Bian Liang directly accused Zhu Shenghao of bullying a young woman. He said stealing a project she'd worked so hard to secure was shameless. Zhu complained that he'd achieved nothing while following Bian Liang, and now that Bian was gone, he could finally do things his own way. While Zhu proudly imagined his grand future, Bian Liang quietly walked away. To get justice for Cao, Bian reported the issue to Mr. Liao, only to be harshly criticized. A young girl who's barely been here a few days. Not even a specialist, just an ordinary employee. How could she possibly land such a huge order? Mr. Liao showed Bian a post suggesting a marketing supervisor had gifted a major contract just to hug a female subordinate. Do you think you haven't had enough scandals already? Mr. Liao worried the gossip was getting out of control. He ordered that only one of Bian Liang and Wen Cao could remain at the company. Wen waited outside the office because she was worried. When Bian came out, he told her everything was settled and the performance credit would be restored to her. What she didn't know was that Bian had just submitted his resignation. More than 10 years earlier, Mr. Liao had quit teaching and brought Bian Liang into business. Back then, they were full of passion and fought their way through the market together. But now Mr. Liao had become disconnected from the real market. From the moment Zhao Xian arrived, Bian Liang had lost any real choice. Mr. Liao urged him not to resign, calling it unwise. But Bian insisted. He couldn't cross his own moral line, and whichever side he chose felt wrong. Later, while Wen was working, Luolin told her to check her email. You haven't seen it? Seen what? The group just announced it. Mr. Bian resigned. Seeing that Bian Liang had really resigned, Wen Cao rushed to find him, but he'd already driven away. Zhu Shenghao had long coveted Bian Liang's position. The moment he saw Bian's chair, he sat down eagerly. Then Wen Cao walked in. What are you doing here? Zhu jumped up, then calmed down when he saw it was her. He said he was getting familiar with the office before moving in. He pointed at her and warned her to be smarter, now that Bian Liang could no longer protect her. Later, Yu Guang and Bian Liang had barbecue together, and Dong Xiao joined them. She'd heard Bian resigned and came to comfort him. Yu Guang was delighted. Now he could openly invite Bian to join his company, but Bian didn't want to change industries. He still wanted to do what he knew best. As Bian packed up and left, Zhu Shenghao fake smiled and offered, I'll walk you out. Bian replied, I'm leaving the company, not dying. When Cao pushed Zhu away, then she and Luolin went to see Bian off. Bian Liang left the company calmly and actually felt a huge weight lift off him. He stored the things he'd packed up at his father's home. His father was puzzled, but Bian didn't dare tell him he'd resigned. He only said he needed to leave the boxes there for a few days. Meanwhile, Wen Cao was targeted even more. Zhu Shenghao gave her no real work and made her do office chores. Wen refused and mocked him to his face for having no leadership ability. Then, just like Bian Liang, she submitted her resignation and walked away. Later, while shopping with a friend, she unexpectedly spotted the man she admired. Xiaoyu, I just remembered something. I won't go with you. Let's talk later. After saying goodbye to her friend, Wen hurried after him. Boss! She'd heard Bian Liang resigned because of her and felt deeply guilty, so she resigned too. Bian didn't know what to say. After he quit, many headhunters contacted him. But Wen Cao was still a workplace rookie. Where would she find another decent job? Bian Liang kept leaving home on time every day, pretending to go to work. In reality, he was meeting headhunters. Because rumors had spread through the industry, no employer offered the pay he wanted. They had all heard about Bian Liang's romantic scandal. We heard you improperly boosted a female subordinate's results, had an affair, and even excluded, defamed, and insulted others for her. Bian Liang exploded, calling it all nonsense. The same thing happened for days. Fu Xintong, meanwhile, was busy selling insurance. Bian pretended to be working while secretly job hunting, but nothing went well. Fu Xintong closed 2 policies that month and made a special meal to celebrate. She said that if they both earned money, she could ease Bian's burden. He kept hiding the truth about his resignation, even running every day, so he'd look tired when he got home. One day, his father, doing Tai Chi in the park, happened to see him jogging there. His father sensed something was wrong and followed. Running too hard, the old man collapsed from exhaustion. Why are you here? What happened to you? Running? Running my ass. I'm exercising, that's all. Bian's father knew he should have been at work, not jogging in the park. He threatened to call Fu Shintong. Bian had no choice but to admit he'd resigned. His father became extremely anxious. Wanting to reduce Bian's burden, he even considered selling his own home. To keep Bian's resignation secret, Yu Guang invited Bian and Fu Shintong to visit his logistics company. In front of Fu, he complained that he badly needed good people. He said his company was now working with Bian's company, so they could cooperate on future projects. Fu Shintong thought it sounded great, better to keep business among friends. Yu Guang even prepared an office for Bian. While they were talking, Li Man suddenly arrived. Aren't we cooperating with Hella Group? Bian Liang is from the client side. Today I'm showing them the production line. From now on, he'll handle all the coordination. Afraid the lie would fall apart, Bian quickly took Fu Shintong away. Li Man knew something was wrong. Why would Yu Guang bring Bian here without telling her? Yu Guang refused to explain, so she arranged to meet Luolin from Bian's old company. Fu Shintong planned to drop Bian off at the office before picking up their child from school. Bian broke into a cold sweat and still didn't dare tell her he'd quit. He let her drive him to the company building. After getting out, he spotted Zhu Shenghao approaching and immediately ran the other way. When Bian got home, he planned to take the child out for dinner. But Fu Shintong already knew he'd resigned. She was deeply disappointed that her husband had made such a major decision behind her back. About my resignation, I've been trying to find the right way, the right chance to explain. I was mainly afraid you couldn't accept it. Fu Shintong couldn't understand his reason for resigning. Bian claimed there was no special reason, only that office politics were too complicated and the job had no future. Then Fu suddenly said, "You quit because of Wen Cao Cao." "I told you, my resignation had nothing to do with Wen Cao Cao. Stop denying it. Everyone at your company knows you fell out with old Liao because of that girl. He was your mentor, the man who helped you enter this business." Bian felt Fu Shintong didn't understand him. Fu replied that they'd never really had a chance to communicate. Their argument grew intense until Bian Xiaofang stepped in to stop them. Yu Guang blamed Li Man for interfering and throwing Bian's family into chaos. Li Man insisted they shouldn't have hidden the truth from Fu Shintong, especially since Bian Liang had apparently resigned for Wen Cao Cao. "You think he's lost his soul over her. Everything you heard is gossip. Just don't gang up against me." Look at this belly left from having Xiaofang. This old body, this ugly body. Even I don't want to look at myself in the mirror. Her husband had lost his job over another woman, and then her mother died by the sea. Fu Jintong finally collapsed emotionally. She went to nursing home and made a scene. Bian Liang rushed over to stop her, only to have her direct all her anger at him. "So you're saying it's my fault? I should have brought Mom home. I shouldn't have left her here. Then she wouldn't have gone missing. She wouldn't have died. Is that what you mean?" Fu demanded a public apology in the newspaper, not money. Seeing her so agitated, Bian could only calm her carefully. Later, he poured out his frustrations to Dong Xiao and described his wife's strange behavior. Dong Xiao suggested he seek professional help. Comfort from family only treats the surface. A psychologist could objectively identify the real cause. Bian took Fu Shintong on a short vacation to relax. At the hotel, they happened to run into Zhao Xian. Zhao complained that things at the company had become extremely difficult. He'd wanted to contact Bian several times, but felt awkward after breaking up with Dong Xiao. While Bian went to check in, Fu Shintong asked Zhao why Bian had resigned. When he left, his apprentice and several capable subordinates left too. "Now I barely have anyone reliable at the company." "His apprentice? Who? Wen Kakao." Hearing that name, Fu Shintong's mood changed instantly. She drove away from the hotel on the spot, and Bian couldn't stop her. A passing neighbor saw thick smoke coming from Bian's home and thought there was a fire, so they called emergency services. Hearing about it, Bian rushed home and opened the door. He found Fu Shintong burning paper inside. "What are you doing? What's going on?" After sending away the property staff and neighbors, Bian sternly criticized her. What she'd done was dangerous. A fire could have put the entire building at risk. Fu told him not to overreact. She only wanted to burn offerings for her dead mother. Bian said she didn't need to do it inside the apartment, especially while refusing to open the door. Feeling wronged, Fu shouted, "Why is everything my fault? I can't do anything right? Why don't you trust me?" During the argument, property management called Bian downstairs to explain what happened. While he was away, Dong Xiao called and said she was coming to see Fu Jintong. Fu had just called Dong Xiao and sounded extremely abnormal and excited. When Bian returned home, Fu Shintong was on the phone. She looked almost manic. After the call, Bian said Dong Xiao was coming. "Dong Xiao's coming? Then we have to make dinner." Fu rushed into the kitchen and quickly prepared a whole table of food. On the surface, she seemed fine, but she normally never drank and now poured alcohol and swallowed a full glass at once. Dong Xiao and Bian spoke carefully, afraid one wrong word would set her off. On the way home, Dong Xiao analyzed Fu Xintong's condition and said something was definitely wrong. Her tone showed unusual excitement. Dong Xiao said Fu's symptoms resembled those of a foreign friend who was eventually diagnosed with schizophrenia. So she urged Bian to find professional help. Fu Xintong's condition worsened and she began doubting Bian. Do you still love me? What's wrong? Of course I love you. You're lying. Look at your reaction. I knew I was right. Bian wanted to help her recover. But Fu said there was no need. She exposed her body and showed the scar on her abdomen from childbirth. Even Fu herself couldn't stand looking at the loose flesh. Bian felt terrible and gently fastened her nightgown. Then Fu suddenly asked for a divorce. Xintong, no matter how angry you get, don't say those 2 words. I've decided I want a divorce. She had thought about divorce many times. She believed Bian had never truly put his heart into the family, and she was exhausted by this life. Slowly, she opened her robe. There was a deep scar across her rough abdomen. It was the mark left by giving birth. No wonder you don't want to look at me anymore. What woman? What are you talking about? Of course I look at you. Fu thought she was ugly and told Bian to run away. Bian knew his wife was seriously unwell and asked Li Man to take her to a traditional Chinese doctor. After asking about her symptoms, the doctor suggested she see a psychologist. Fu immediately stood up and left. She guessed Bian had arranged it through her friend and became extremely upset. When Bian returned home and saw clothes scattered on the stairs, his heart sank. He found Fu Xintong leaning on the staircase, crying, and hurried to comfort her. She knew she wasn't well and agreed to see a doctor with him. The doctor confirmed there was a problem, but needed a questionnaire for a fuller diagnosis. Seeing Fu was resistant, the doctor asked Bian to step outside. Fu cooperated with the interview, and the final diagnosis was bipolar disorder. But Fu stubbornly believed she had simply gone insane and refused to hear the doctor's explanation. Her behavior became stranger, and nearly anything Bian said could set her off. Yet when their child called, she became completely clear-headed. Good job, I'm proud of you. But listen, these grades don't count yet. Your high school entrance exam. That's the real result. Understand? Bian wanted their son to come home from boarding school to spend more time with Fu, but Fu furiously refused. She didn't want him seeing her like this. Bian suggested taking Xiaofang out with her, but Fu said the child needed to ask her directly. Xiaofang still didn't know his mother was ill. He assumed his parents had simply argued and that Dad wanted him to help them make up. After coming home, Xiaofang begged his mother to take him to the amusement park. Fu didn't want to go, but knowing school was stressful, she agreed. They hit a traffic jam on the way. Fu got out to direct traffic, but her emotions spiraled out of control, and she started arguing with people. Bian, worried about her, had been following behind. Seeing his wife arguing, he hurried over and finally managed to persuade her back into the car. Then he took Fu Xintong to the hospital. At this point, he had no choice but to tell their son about her illness and help him understand it correctly. The doctor repeatedly warned Bian not to let anything go wrong again and told Xiaofang that Fu cared about him deeply. The doctor hoped Xiaofang would go with Bian to bring Fu Xintong home. Bian and Xiaofang brought her back, and Bian ordered takeout for lunch. But Fu wanted to speak with Bian alone, so she sent Xiaofang out. Fu knew Bian had suffered a lot during this period. But the more patient he was, the more exhausted and irritable she felt. Every morning she woke feeling broken and couldn't calmly face him. We said we'd divorce. What? Divorce. I want a divorce. Fu again demanded to end a marriage that made her feel unable to breathe. Facing her agitation, Bian could only agree temporarily. He then went to find Xiaofang. By now, some things could no longer be hidden. He told Xiaofang that Fu Xintong wanted to divorce him, but Xiaofang thought Dad was being irresponsible and abandoning Mom. Bian asked if Xiaofang also felt suffocated around him. The child admitted Dad could be annoying. Bian decided to leave for a while and let Xiaofang become his mother's main support. Maybe her condition would improve. As Bian packed to leave, Fu unexpectedly cried and watched him through the peephole after closing the door. Bian hadn't actually left. He stood outside crying too. When Xiaofang came home from school, he saw his father leaving and burst into tears, afraid the family was truly falling apart. Bian told him that for a while, he would be his mother's only support and the pillar of the family. He had to stay strong. Meanwhile, Fu started her first day working at a flower shop. A customer immediately caused trouble. These flowers were for my girlfriend. I used them to propose. You wrapped yellow chrysanthemums? Are you crazy?
毛病是吧？
这黄菊是您要的，
我什么时候要黄菊了？
您当
You handed them to me. Stop arguing. Refund these flowers now. Fu explained that sold flowers couldn't be returned and that he had chosen the chrysanthemums himself. The man had failed in his proposal and took his anger out on Fu. Since she had bipolar disorder, the attack triggered her and she lost control, pushing him to the ground. Just then, the flower shop owner returned. Calm down. Sit over there first. The man got up and tried to fight. Seeing the owner was big and strong, and knowing he was partly at fault, the customer finally left. After Bian heard what happened, he advised Fu to find a different environment. But Fu insisted she'd done nothing wrong and had already discussed it with the owner. They agreed the customer had deliberately caused trouble so she could keep working there. Fu criticized her son for reporting everything to Bian and ordered him not to tell Dad about her anymore. She sent Xiaofang to see Bian out, then went back to her room. Bian didn't want to leave yet. He whispered to his son not to listen to that instruction and to call him immediately if anything happened. Fu again urged Bian to go. After he left, she still worried about him. Looking through the peephole and seeing him outside made her feel conflicted. Bian went alone to Brother Hua's barbecue stall. Hearing he still hadn't recovered from the divorce, his friend invited a divorced woman over to drink with him. Let me introduce you. This is Bian Liang, a good friend of mine. Successful career. The woman had also divorced recently and even added Bian to a divorce chat group. People in the same boat should understand each other, but the woman could tell Bian was in no mood to talk. She realized he still hadn't escaped the shadow of divorce. She told him to look on the bright side. There were plenty of other women in the world. When one door closes, another opens. Someone out there is waiting for you. Bian could only force a silly smile, only he knew the bitterness inside. Fu Xintong called Bian and said someone wanted to buy the house, so he needed to come collect his things. Bian pushed open the door to the home that had once been warm and happy. He remembered how Fu used to greet him there. The three of them had once been a happy family. Now those moments were only memories. The more Bian remembered, the sadder he became, till he cried in the room. Fu returned to the hospital for a follow-up and had improved greatly. She even gave the doctor flowers before leaving. Outside the hospital, she happened to meet Dong Xiao. Dong Xiao hurriedly stuffed her medical report into her bag, and the two chatted at the flower shop. I envy you. You get to work in such a beautiful place every day. I love it here too. And this job suits me perfectly. Dong Xiao admired Fu for having the courage to start over and do something she loved. Fu encouraged Dong Xiao to hurry up and find a partner, but Dong Xiao had many uncertainties she couldn't tell her. Meanwhile, Bian Liang sat alone by the sea drinking. Dong Xiao messaged him asking to eat together, but he didn't reply. After thinking it over, he went to Dong Xiao's home anyway. Planning to stay here tonight? That's not a bad idea. You dare? Why not? Bian had the desire but not the courage. He still cared about Dong Xiao, but that belonged to the past. He couldn't understand how, in middle age, he'd somehow lost himself. His wife divorced him, and the house was being sold. His once happy life seemed to disappear overnight, and he still couldn't figure out what he'd done wrong. Even Fu Xintong's illness seemed somehow tied to him. Dong Xiao played a song, trying to help him see things differently. She said everyone has done things they thought were for someone else's good, without asking what that person truly wanted. While they were talking, someone knocked on the door. Dong Xiao didn't want to respond to Zhao Xian, but Bian worried something might happen and opened it. Zhao was gone. Then Dong Xiao slowly removed her hat. Her completely bald head stunned everyone. Seeing their tense faces, she broke the silence. New hairstyle. What do you think? It turned out she had breast cancer and had taken a long leave. She'd gone to Britain for a mastectomy. After several rounds of chemotherapy, the cancer cells were gone, and she was now recovering. She believed she'd soon be back to full strength. Seeing Dong Xiao remain so optimistic left everyone with mixed emotions. The flower shop received a large order for a conference, and the owner asked Fu Xintong to handle it alone. Everything was planned, but on site the requirements kept changing, and workers talked over one another. Fu became overwhelmed and felt another manic episode coming. She ran somewhere quiet, breathed slowly, and told herself she could handle it. Take it slowly. After a few minutes, Fu overcame the fear. She came back and organized the work smoothly. Returning to the shop, she was about to tell the owner how well it went when Bian Liang arrived with Xiaofang. There was a public training session at the exhibition center. It was good, so I took him to listen. To celebrate Fu's successful job, they all went for hot pot. Fu told them she'd almost had another episode at work, but managed to calm herself. Maybe things were slowly getting better. Bian was overjoyed. He ordered a bottle of beer to celebrate her overcoming the psychological barrier. After several successful jobs, the flower shop's reputation kept improving. A hotel had 3 weddings coming up and asked Fu to handle all the floral design, with the possibility of long-term cooperation. Fu told the owner about the wedding work and planned to prepare the proposal that night. Unexpectedly, the owner said he wouldn't be able to help her anymore. I've decided to sell the shop. Sell it? Why so suddenly? The owner planned to open a shop in Dali, something he'd wanted for years. He said Fu's example gave him the courage to finally take that step. Watching her work so hard had inspired him to pursue his own dream. He asked whether Fu wanted to take over the flower shop. It might be a good choice for both of them. Fu loved the shop but wasn't confident about running it herself. The owner told her not to decide too quickly. She should go home, discuss it, then make a choice. Back home, Fu almost called Bian to discuss it, but hesitated and put the phone down. When the owner learned she still hadn't told Bian, he reminded her that Bian had always cared about her and had helped bring many customers to the shop. I think you should give him another chance. The owner brought out a bouquet Bian had asked him to give Fu. The card said, "Anniversary." Only then did Fu realize she and Bian had been married for 15 years. Through every storm, they'd stayed together. As the card said, deep love is no match for long companionship. True devotion needs few words. After returning home, Fu called the flower shop owner and decided to take over the business. She told Xiaofang about the plan, but asked him to keep it secret. Don't tell Bian Liang. Xiaofang immediately told his grandfather, also mentioning that mom was raising money. The next day, Bian's father went to the flower shop and handed Fu a bank card. He fully supported her buying the shop and understood why she hadn't told Bian. The money was his retirement savings. He was happy if Fu could put it to good use.
我开店怎么可能用您这个钱呢？
Please, you have to keep it. Fu refused to take it. Just then, Bian Liang arrived. During their time apart, Fu had reflected on herself a lot. She realized she'd always focused on Bian's faults, and now she felt ashamed. Bian and his father offered to invest in the flower shop instead, and only then did Fu agree to use their money. Bian's new company had developed autonomous delivery vehicles with strong prospects. With Dong Xiao's help, Zhao Xian's company invested in the project. Later, Fu went to the seaside and saw a couple taking wedding photos. Bian took out the wedding ring he'd kept with him all along. He said he wanted to take a new set of wedding photos with Fu Jintong, make peace with the past, and treat every day as a new beginning.